I never borrowed a cent. I never got a cent. I started this from scratch. A person needs to first know, what am I trying to do? People want the numbers, but the numbers don't mean anything. What matters is the quality of the community. I'm going to say we've blocked about 20,000 people on social media. All right, today I'm here with a very good friend of mine, Maddie R. Cohen. She's going to be interviewing me about all things business. The reason we have you here today is because we've done something similar in the past. I feel like your line of questioning is very, very good, and I'm excited to start and
cool.
Take it away.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time out of your day.
Thanks for having me. So, I just want to start out with some general information. How long have you owned From the Mines?
Since 2014.
Okay. And then
I started the company in 2014 legally.
Okay. So what inspired you to start it? Like, what inspired you to just start a business?
I was already in a mindset to become an entrepreneur. I was tired of working for people, and I wanted to kind of dictate my own life, dictate my own schedule. Mm-hmm. And I was doing energy work at that time. I came out of a nonprofit, and that led me into doing consultations and energy work, things to that nature. And I started incorporating crystals into the energy work that I was doing. I was having very good success there. Became very successful in that field, thank God. Enough success to help me build what currently we have here today.
Did you go to college?
No.
Okay.
I was told in high school that I would never get into college.
Okay.
By my guidance counselor. Told me don't even apply to colleges, which I wasn't really. I was in summer school every summer. Barely got out of high school. I got out of high school by the skin. They probably. I really am, and I mean this. I was probably just like let's just pass this kid. Just get him out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I was like failing high school. I could have gotten left back or what. I think literally my high school wanted to just get me out of there. Yeah. So they're like just get him out of here.
But that's incredible that you've.
I went to community college because my guidance counselor told me that I would never go to college. I went for a semester at Bergen Community College. I went for one semester. I didn't last the whole semester, but I went just to spite him.
Yeah.
But I didn't last the whole semester there, and then eventually after that, maybe like a year later, I went to audio engineering school, which is a trade school. I went to IAR in Manhattan. I got a bachelor's degree in audio engineering from there. But it was a trade, so it was a 9-to-5 situation.
Yeah. Were you doing anything with, gem and mineral
Nothing.
Industry
No,
things?
No. I was at the time I was a touring musician. I was in bands, and that was my life at that point. I wanted to be a touring musician.
So where were you in your life when you first started the first business you ever had?
I was coming out of a nonprofit. I was working for nonprofits. I came out of it with no money to my name. I started my energy business. I also got a job consulting for a company who was not doing well. And I was able to get like a 9-to-5 job, which wasn't really 9 to 5. It was maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, where I was consulting this person on what was going on in their business and how to fix their business and how to run their business. That's before crystal business was energy healing. That was my business that I started after I left the nonprofits. In those nonprofits, I was doing energy work for free. I wasn't charging anybody yet for that, but after I left there, I started a practice and I started a business around that, which I grew quickly.
That was after the Kabbalah work, right?
Well, I did Kabbalah was the longest nonprofit run that I had, but I did I was involved in many other things, Habitat for Humanity, I did missionary work. There was many other things that I did. But again, I never wanted to go in the direction of some sort of corporate. I wanted it to be, this is a very close-knit group of people here, all of which whom, regardless of any other factors, I consider family to me. I love my employees. I don't look at them as employees. I don't treat them like employees. I don't think anybody here would say that I treat them like an employee. Everyone has a lot of freedom here. It's up to you to determine who you're going to be and what you're going to do here. And I want people to build that entrepreneurial mindset in their job. That's why I'm not breathing down anybody's throat.
So then, say somebody, needs a little push with the entrepreneurial mindset, what would you tell them?
Some people get it, some people don't.
Yeah.
Some people are going to get there, some people are not going to get there. The people who are not going to get there, they don't last here. So it's not about what you say or it's either someone's going to get it and fit in, they're going to snap in, or they're just not going to snap in.
Yeah.
You get what you give. Whatever you put into something is what you're going to get out of it. There's also luck involved, but I don't believe in luck personally. I believe that if you are doing legwork in like, let's just say you're going in this direction and you're doing legwork in this direction, and no fruits come from that labor, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it could just show up on your doorstep from a completely different avenue. You'll never connect the two of them, but because of your work and your effort in that direction, which didn't yield the results you were looking for, it just completely out of the blue just fell out of the sky. And your efforts do produce those kinds of magical results. Although they're not magical, but they might look like luck.
Yeah.
But it's not. They came from your efforts. It came from your diligence. It came from your consistency and all of those things.
Did you have any help starting your business? Did you do it all by yourself?
The energy healing business was a solo act, but starting the crystal companies and doing all of that, yeah, my wife was there with me from the beginning. She was there when we got the first shipment of material for the company. But I had already started buying and selling crystals to my clients at the time. I wasn't making much money off of any of it. Also, I was living in Manhattan, so everything was so drastically expensive. So I would buy a rock for like $5 and sell it for like $6 to a client or something like that. Help me pay for my trip to the subways or whatever was going on.
But did you have anybody, like when you first, because I know you just said you had other businesses before this, did you have anybody take you under their wing or give you the basics?
No.
The rundown? You did it, everything?
Soup to nuts, all of it, yeah.
Yeah. So how did you overcome the initial jump of just doing it?
The thing is, I started at such a ground level that I was able to just step by step learn as I went. Which also I'm that kind of person that I like to be in the driver's seat and I like to learn from my own mistakes. And I think that even I think that it's advantageous to learn from your own mistakes. Mm-hmm. Definitely, you can have somebody give you good information, but good information is only worth what it's worth. You can't really know something until you go through the process of it. So I liked going through the process and making my own mistakes and learning from those mistakes, which is really great if you're capable of learning from your mistakes and growing from your mistakes.
Which is difficult.
Not if you hate making mistakes.
True.
If you really dislike mistakes and making mistakes, then you make sure you don't do it a second time. That's for sure.
So when you started from the mines, were there popular like e-commerce platforms, websites?
Etsy had just kind of started becoming a thing. Most people were selling on eBay. Mm-hmm. I started out of a friend's garage selling on Craigslist. So I was posting items on Craigslist and I'd have people coming from all over the place meeting me at the garage and I was selling them stuff, which was not lucrative.
What's a platform that you would recommend for somebody just starting to use if they wanted to launch a website?
Number one, building a website nowadays, organic traffic is not going to happen. There's just too much out there. So if someone looks up Crystal website, you're going to get lost in a sea of 2 million websites. The way that you have to drag traffic to a website is going to be through social media.
I remember being torn between Etsy and Shopify, and you said if you use Etsy, you're going to have other people's products recommended under yours.
Which is true.
Which is true, and it sucks, but...
The thing with Etsy and why I tell people not to go in the direction of Etsy is because, it's like showing up to a street fair. And you're literally next to people selling the same exact material as you, and now your client can go and say, oh, this person's thing is 30 cents cheaper than yours. And that's not really how you want to do business. Yeah, you don't want to be in a bidding war. You don't want to be pinned against other people. I can tell you, so recently, I think over the last 2 weeks, we had someone contact us and wanted to build out something very, very difficult to do and X, Y, and Z. And they called me up and They were telling me that they were speaking to other people, and I'm dealing with other people right now. And I said, okay, go deal with other people. I'm not, it was a very big sale.
Yeah.
It wasn't peanuts. But at the same time, I told them I'm not looking to go into war with anybody. I'm not looking to get pinned against anybody. I don't want you to come back to me and say this guy's trying to set. I say go with whoever you're already with. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And that actually landed me the sale.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I wound up getting that business. It's done. It's already done. Materials done. Shipped over.
So, I want to kind of shift over to the responsibilities of being a business owner and entrepreneur, because that's information that I found really important learning from you. I mean, all of this is, but hearing this
Not only that, it applies to regular job.
Yeah. And I know that we did touch upon some questions that had to do with it, but what is the most important piece of advice you would give somebody that wants to start a business?
You need a budget.
Yeah. And I took your business 101 class. That was one of the most helpful things I've ever done. And you made it really clear that you need a business plan, and that's like one of the first things you need to do.
Yeah, you don't need to go. The thing is, when you say you need a business plan, probably what happens if someone doesn't understand what a business plan is, they're going to go to Google, they're going to look up business plan, they're going to find templates, and they're going to go in that direction. That's not necessary unless you're pitching a business to get investors. There's many different arenas here. Number one, I started all of I never borrowed a cent. I never got a cent. I started this from scratch. Nothing. Zero. No loans, no investors, no partner, nothing. Zero, zilch, nothing. So my perspective is going to be the best in that direction. If you're looking to build a business and get investors and build a portfolio and things like that, yes, I can tell you about that. But it depends on what you're trying to do. So that's the first thing. What are you trying to do? A person needs to first know, what am I trying to do? In detail. Not just like, I want to start a business. Right now I'm working a 9 to 5. I've been a nurse or a school teacher my whole life. I work in road work or doing construction my whole life. Now I want to start a business. Okay, that's great. You can do that, but you need a plan. You need a business plan.
What's one of the most surprising or unexpected lessons you've learned as the owner of a company?
The thing that jumps to my mind immediately is that bills fall out of the sky. All of a sudden you wake up and there's a bill on your plate and you're like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
So you got to plan for that.
Yeah.
Unexpected expenses.
Is that something that you can plan for in your business plan?
Sometimes no. My experience, and I'm sure anybody who's a business owner, let's just say you own a pizzeria, and you're going along, everything is good. Your pizza oven breaks. So you've only had it for a year. Wasn't supposed to break for 12 years, but a year into it, the thing is broken. You find out that the warranty or the guarantee on it is actually not a guarantee or a warranty at all. Now you got to replace your pizza oven. How do you plan for that?
Budget.
No, you don't. You just get screwed.
Yeah.
What I did was I always made sure that I always maintained a certain amount in my banking accounts based off of the 3-month projection of a business. So you should always have, at a minimum, you need to have 3 months to cover your business. Minimum. Right? So let's just say that it costs $100,000 a month to run your business. Your banking account should not drop below $300,000. For me, I always considered anything below that in the red. Above that is in the green. So you need to try to maintain that 3-month standard. If your business costs $10,000 a month to operate, you need $30,000. That's how you kind of protect yourself to some degree. So when the pizza oven breaks, you actually have the money to fix it there.
What's one of the most common mistakes you see in people when they're setting a budget?
Number one, if you can plan your budget, is going to be the best thing. Not as opposed to, like, for example, you say, you know what, I'm going to start my business and I'm going to save $10,000 and then I'm going to start my business, right? And then once you get to that $10,000 mark or whatever it is, because really starting a business with anything less than $10,000 is going to be really an uphill battle. And again, I know that from you can expedite a year's worth of stuff with a $10,000 budget. So if you can come up with a $10,000 budget to start your small business, especially if it's an online business I'm talking about. If you're going to actually start a retail business and have of an actual physical location, there's going to be build out, there's going to be all of these things. Most people are going to look for investors. Most people are going to go in that direction. But let's just say that you have a $10,000 budget to start, because it's very common here in the crystal industry. Someone comes in, $5,000 budget is probably most likely what you're seeing from someone who's starting up. But also the person starting up is looking to do some sort of online situation, sell on Etsy, whatever. So maybe someone's selling at markets or street fairs or something like that. But your $5,000, but if you only have $5,000 to your name, you can't just blow that $5,000 on material.
Yeah.
You need to, there has to be marketing behind that to some degree. There has to be, you're taking into consideration what kind of supplies am I going to need? What kind of travel expense? All of it needs to be considered. Also paying yourself for your time. One of the biggest mistakes people make when budgeting is not considering their time as part of their budget. For example, people say, I want to go to Tucson this year for the gem show. Okay, how much money are you going out there with to spend? Oh, I'm going out there with a $5,000, even $10,000. Let's say you're going out there with $10,000 to buy. Number one, you're already overpaying out there 30 to 100% more than you should, because people have to incorporate their expenses that are out there into the price of the material. Yeah. So you're already overpaying for material. Most likely, from what I've seen walking gem shows, everything is very expensive. Like, really, that's why I say it's surprising to me when someone does their bulk of their purchasing at gem shows, because you're way overpaying for a lot of stuff. The only time you're paying really, really cheap prices is probably when you're dealing with very specific groups of people selling things very cheap, is because there's no ethics behind it. It's either stolen material. That's when you get into these very cheap prices, because I can sell something for $1. If I didn't pay for something and I sell it for $1, I made $1.
Yeah. So how important would you say? I mean, how important is it to, separate?
Well, anyway, hold on to finish the sentence.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Because if you're going out to to the gem show with a $10,000 budget, your expenses to go out there are probably going to be around $5,000 to go out to that show for that period of time. So what you might, and your expenses, not your time. Yeah. If you're spending a week out there and your salary is, let's just say you're making $1,000 a week, now your budget, your expenses went up to $6,000, not $5,000. And one of the things that your people say a lot is, oh, it's like a vacation for me. Mm-hmm. No, it's not a vacation for you. This is just your way to justify what you're doing, because it's not a smart monetary move. But you get to backdoor your own intelligence and say, oh, this is like a vacation. It's like what we do. It's not a vacation. You're working. Yeah. A vacation is going to the Bahamas, going to Cancun. That's a vacation. You're going there to work. The only reason you're going to Tucson is not because you want a vacation in Tucson. Yeah. You're going to Tucson because there's a gem show there and you want to be involved in that. That's part of your business. So you need to incorporate that into your business expenses. It has to happen. If you're not doing that and you're backdooring it, then okay, fine. You just shouldn't be taking yourself too seriously then, because you're not being efficient. But anyway, my point is that if you're going out there and you're buying $10,000 worth of stuff, but it costs you $7,000, people like to undercut their budget out there and say, oh no, it cost me $3,000. Well, did you include this and this? And oh no, I didn't include that. Well, that's part of it. All your food expenses. If you're at home and you're preparing your own food, let's just not something someone thinks about. If you're home and it costs you $300 a week to eat, while you're out in Tucson for that week, how much did it cost you to eat for that week? Oh, it was $700. So actually $500 got added on to your expenses there. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. No one does that. So you went out to Tucson with a $10,000 budget. It cost you around $6,000 to $7,000 to be there for you to buy $10,000 worth of material. You're never going to recoup those funds.
Yeah. So then what, tools or practices do you recommend to avoid that happening?
You need to find a distributor who you trust. And you need reliability and consistency. I will tell you this from being in this business and again, as I'm hearing it, it sounds like such a bad sales pitch, but it's the truth. Any of my clients who stayed with me from the beginning to now are doing amazing.
Yeah.
Serious, true story. Any clients who showed up, and again, I know that it's going to sound arrogant, I know it's going to sound like a sales pitch, but it's really not, because you have me in your corner also giving you information. The thing is if you spend your first year with me, you're starting your business and your first year is with me, and then after that first year, you're like, you know what, I can go to China, I can go to this place, I can do all these things, I can get way cheaper prices. That's when you see someone start sliding down the hill.
Yeah.
Always. Always, always, always. I mean, again, I'm doing this for 15 years. As soon as somebody leaves that comfort zone of, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I've always tried to say this in business. I don't do things the cheapest way by any means whatsoever. I could cut my expenses right today, right now, I can cut my expenses 40% if I go dark. And when I say go dark, meaning that I just abandon all my standards, morals, ethics, beliefs, and I just go, how can I get the cheapest thing? Cheap, cheap, cheap. I could save 40% right now. 40%.
Which is massive.
Massive. Life-changing.
I mean,
it's absolutely massive.
That's like...
Why don't I do it?
Because it's not ethically...
Why have I lasted for, thank God a million times, why have I lasted so long in this industry? When I saw people who were in there way before me, adios. People who came in and started, adios. We've said goodbye to a lot of people in this industry. I'm not buy cheap, sell cheap. How did I last so long in this industry when I'm not the cheapest? On either side of it. Because if it's not broken, don't fix it.
You're very public about sharing your knowledge about this industry. There's a lot of sellers that are very sneaky and they fib a lot, especially about ethical practices, and they'll try to get around it just to make, make that money. So I wanted to ask what exactly ethical sourcing means to you.
Well, just number one, to address the idea that they're fibbing. They might not know that they're fibbing. They're just not willing to go past the answer that they got. Yeah. Right? They might not be lying per se, but they didn't dig any deeper than someone said, hey, I'm doing things the right way. Ethical, what does that really mean? It means that, it depends what your standards are, first of all. For me, what it means is no one is being taken advantage of. No one is doing anything outside of their own free will. So I'm not dictating. One of the things that happens the most in this industry right now, which is the craziest thing, is one, stolen material and people not paying their bills. I don't have that problem, but it's also why I'm not. The reason why I'm not more into the larger aspects of the market as some other people might be is, number one, I'm not a buy cheap, sell cheap person. I am sticking to the standards and morals and ethics of my business practices. And not only that, I refuse to play people's games where other people are willing to do all three of those things. It allows them to seep themselves into I prefer to be on my side of the fence and choose who I do business with on my side of the fence. Now, a lot of people will look at that and say that's arrogant, or people will look at that and say that there's ego behind it, or that I'm rude, or that I'm obnoxious, or X, Y, and Z. And people do have that experience. That's not an unreasonable thing to say. I don't disagree with those people who feel that way towards me. I really don't. I don't discredit them. I don't think that they're wrong. I just think that with me, you get what you give. And as far as ethics goes, it means that number one, I'm keeping my word. Number two, if I made a mistake, I own my mistake. And number three, that's why I try to do everything myself. As much of it as I can, from sourcing to manufacturing, everything in between, I try to make sure that I have my hands on all of it, because that's really the best way to ensure ethics. Yeah. Most people, they'll come to me and say, oh, are you ethical in your practices? And I could just say yes. That's all they need. It ends there. And that's the issue. Yeah. So they might not be fibbing. Some of them are. You're not wrong. Some of them are, but I'm going to say a percentage of people are not. They just haven't really dug their feet in. Yeah.
Especially those I've had, sometimes I answer when I get those the poacher message requests, and they'll send me a bunch of stuff, and then it's like, hey, where'd you get this from? And they're like, all around. Like, and I'm like, what specific mine is this product coming from?
Even though they're telling you they mined the product themselves, probably.
Yeah, and I'm saying, okay, so can you send me a picture of you in the mine? Like, send me a video or a picture of you mining. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, there's no, like, and you told me this. There's no way somebody's going to say they mined something and didn't take some kind of picture in the mine.
Yeah, you take a picture of you eating a salad for lunch. I mean,
yeah.
If you got yourself into a mine, even if like you've been there for a long time, you still have a picture from the beginning. You know, there's no way you don't have a picture of you in a mine. Which, you know what, that's better than not having any. I mean, you might say, well, how do I know that one picture or two pictures or three? For me, I actually have a catalog. I don't know if I've ever showed you. I have in my phone, I have a folder.
I think,
an album.
Yeah.
Every like mine in the country that I've been, right? I mean, I literally have an album. It was like, I think there's like 550 different videos and photos of my visits to mines and being in mines and X, Y, and Z. So that's an extensive catalog.
Yeah, there was.
But these people who are mining it themselves, they don't even have one picture of them. You know, that's very interesting to me.
There was a specific one that sent me a video when I asked that of somebody in the mine with like a bulldozer, and I'm like, okay, that's great. How do I know that there's not a child behind that wheel? How do I know that you're paying these people correctly?
Well, here's the thing. Finding children in the semi-precious industry, mining semi-precious stones, the chances that children are involved in that are like slim to none. In mining semi-precious stone. Precious stones, another story. But semi-precious, which is what we're in. This is my side of the fence is semi-precious. Mm-hmm. I'm not really dealing in precious stone. Finding children in the mines in a semi-precious stone mine like Tiger's Eye, Amethyst, Agate, probably not. Most likely these are mines ran by families for generation after generation. No funny business happening. Where the funny business is happening are in the manufacturing plants. That's where the funny business happens, really. So, someone can visit a mine and take a video of a bulldozer, and they were there, and there's nothing wrong there, whatever. But where now the polished item that you get from there is a different story.
Do you ever find that it's difficult to navigate the balance between offering high quality, ethically sourced products and maintaining affordability to customers?
Not really. I mean, you're comparing apples to oranges. I mean, just for example, if you take let's just say $1 to $1.25 bracelet that you would get, let's just say in China, right? And then you take that and put that in comparison. Like you really want to compare my bracelet to that bracelet, that $1.25 bracelet from it. If you can't see the difference there, you might not have eyeballs.
Yeah. So then, how do you handle?
So I mean, again, it depends. You want to buy cheap, sell cheap, or do you want product with integrity? For me, I want product with integrity. That's what I want to sell. That's what I want. For me, the goal is to have the best, not to have the cheapest. I'm 0% interested in that. That there's 1,000 people fighting to death with each other over that narrative. I have no interest in that. Also, that's how you get in trouble when you start fighting with those kinds of people, because those kinds of people, I don't know, nothing. You don't have anything good to say there, but at the same time, for me, my product, I want it to be the best. That's what I want.
So then how do you go about securing funding?
What do you mean?
Like, once that budget's set, you get the items. How do you
how I got my first purchase that I made from an overseas wholesaler was a $15,000 purchase, and it took me about 1.5 years to save that money. Penny pinching. At that time, I was on my own. I was living in an apartment with a friend. And they were paying primarily most of the bills, and I was just saving every cent. I was I was eating in a day, true story, for about, I'm going to say about 1 year, I was eating like probably 1 egg in the morning, an apple for lunch, and maybe not even eating dinner. And I did that for about 1 year.
Yeah. So why didn't you ever consider, maybe like taking a loan or finding an investor?
My way of thinking, my rule of thumb, don't buy it if you can't pay for it. That's how people get in credit card debt.
Yeah.
If you don't have the money to pay for something, you shouldn't be acquiring that thing. That's my perspective.
You do have videos of you exploring Tucson. That one I watched. Can you explain the importance in, networking and building relationships when you go to places like that, especially in this industry?
Using Tucson as an example?
Well, I know that you have videos of you visiting sellers in Tucson that you really like. So, what's the importance to a new business owner in networking and making those good connections?
I'm not really buying much at gem shows. Like if I come across something that I personally like, and I'm like, oh, I maybe that's a different story. But actually buying at gem shows is not something that I do much of, unless I come across something that's, one, could be verified. Where did you get it? How did you get it? X, Y, and Z. If that can be verified to me, and then also if it's something that I've never seen this material before, or wow, this material is something that's been off the market for a really long time. If it's extremely lucrative, then I might be interested in buying something. Or again, if I've been in the business so long that I know, if you walk a gem show with me in Arizona or in Tucson, most likely I know every single person. When I walk the gem shows, what I'm looking for are trends.
Do you buy your inventory based on trends that are happening right now and based on what you think that the customers would like, or you just, because remember the 8th vein ocean jasper trend when everybody wanted one, and then
here's the problem with that. The problem with it is that, and the same thing happened with Super 7, the same thing happened with Oral I-23, the same thing happens with all of this stuff. People, and again, going back to misinformation, endless amounts of ocean jasper that wasn't 8th vein was sold as 8th vein. Endless amounts. The likelihood of you actually buying 8th vein ocean jasper over just whatever other vein it was is probably marginal. Meaning that if you bought 8th vein ocean jasper, it's likely it's not. So this is the issue. Same thing with Super 7. I was just having this conversation yesterday with somebody about Super 7 too, because they were telling me, and I was like, everything you're seeing on the market right now is not Super 7. It's red cap amethyst or coccoxanite amethyst. Maybe it has 5 minerals in it, which then you could call Super 5. The trends are, one, dictated at this point by people who are diving into misinformation. That's the issue. And that's what I was kind of saying back in the beginning, is that the market that's there now is just a disaster.
Yeah. So how do you balance that with keeping a good relationship with your customers and keeping them coming back and just establishing that connection with them?
What determines my relationship with the client is what you decide the interaction is going to. I don't decide the interaction, the client does. If the client comes and is very nice and is very pleasant and is reasonable and is not trying to play this game with me, which I know instantly, that's part of the issue for me, is I already know your game.
Yeah.
I already know what you're doing. You're not smart, you're not manipulating me, you're not different than the other 10,000 times I've seen the same trick.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, people come and they think that they're very smart, they think they have it figured out, and then I'm sorry, you don't have it. Maybe it works with other people, but with me, it's not going to work. So when someone doesn't get their way, they like to stomp their feet and clap their hands.
Yeah. I mean, most wholesalers are not like you and are very unwilling to share their knowledge and, take anyone under their wing. Like, I would say that you took me under your wing, and I appreciate that a lot. And I think that a lot of sellers...
But you're very pleasant.
Thank you.
You don't give me a hard time. You don't try to play any games, which is good, because also, you got in the door with me in the beginning. It's not like you already had tons of experience behind you.
I had 0.
So this is good. You can then take somebody like that and mold them and shape them and educate them. Whereas somebody else who's already been there, who's done business overseas with people, and here's the thing. Most people who go and start their business and do business with people overseas, I don't want to get specific, but you want that price, but you want my service, right? You want that price, but you want me to produce that price with my kind of service, with how I will. For me, there's no, if someone is pleasant and someone wants to, talk like pleasant people, not like play the game with me. If you're going to play the game with me, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I'm just not interested. You can leave.
Yeah.
You can leave right now.
I remember the first time I came here. I was so nervous, and I saw you, and I remember just looking like, I was like, oh my god, I'm in the presence of like a celebrity right now.
Hardly,
and I came up to you and I was like, I'm so excited to be here. And you just went, cool. And then I was just like, okay, like we're besties now.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm just. I don't see it. I mean, it is interesting. Like I was saying, even especially when I show up to like gem shows, like big gem shows or something like that. It's really weird for people to approach me and give me attention like that because I'm very awkward in those situations because I don't know how to like.
Yeah.
I'm because I'm not that thing. I'm not. I'm just a dude from New Jersey, and I really see myself that way. But at the same time, what I learned during COVID was that if you're going to maintain the success of your business, you better find a place in social media. I understood that.
It's true. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Real answer. How well do we really know each other? Like really?
I mean, I really know nothing about your personal life. I know you.
Well, I mean, never. How well do we really know each other?
Probably not that
well.
well.
Like, are we good friends? Like, are we going out and hanging out?
No.
Or, like, are we calling? I'm talking to you once a week, shooting the shit with you?
No.
Like, what's the base interaction of what we have is what? Like,
business.
Pretty much business, right? Let me ask you this question about me. If you texted me tomorrow at 7:00 at night and said, I need your help, you're going to tell me I'm not going to get on the phone with you for an hour and a half?
I think you would.
Of course I would.
Yeah.
But you earned that from me by me being able to figure out what kind of integrity that you have, what kind of person you are. What do you think the difference between my interaction with you and $100,000 client would be?
I genuinely think.
Do you think I treat you like you're a $100,000 client?
Probably. I mean, I don't think that you treat me like I'm below like a client. Like I think that you genuinely, like if you find that you have a good relationship with a client, that you treat them all pretty equally. I mean,
same.
I'm not spending.
That's my point. My point is that do you think I'm basing my relationships with people based off of how much money I'm getting out of them?
No, never.
No way.
So, how did COVID affect your life and your business?
Well, COVID came around at a time when actually things, economically speaking, were really good. I think most people will agree that at that time, the economy was in a stable place. We weren't really in any problems economically, war-wise. Things were really good pre-COVID. Actually, for me, the best years came pre-COVID. As soon as they came out and they were like, close your business, stay in the house, wait it out, I was like, no, I'm out. And I went out into the world. But while I was out, what I saw really quickly was that no customers were coming into the warehouse. All the businesses were closed, retail business, right? The only people that were really doing decent business were people online. And so I realized quickly, thank God a million times, in that moment that the way everything is changing right now. The way things were before are over. I thank God a million times I was able to realize that, and I said everything is going to go digital. Everything is going to go virtual. So I took myself in that direction right away. And luckily enough, people who are already there doing live sales, doing online sales, were doing great. And I saw an uptick in their business. They went from being like, let's just say $1,000 order client to like $5,000, $7,000 orders. And that was helping me sustain and pay my nut and do everything I needed to do during that time. So that's when I first introduced myself to social media. Before that, I hated social media. I thought it was the devil. And what COVID did was turn me from person to person to now I'm going in this direction of trying to become a social media influencer.
Do you prefer social media now?
No.
Why? Because I feel like you're doing really well.
The thing is I think for me, I'm interpersonal. I'm a person to person. I like that relationship better than the virtual relationship that you build with people. Because the truth of the matter is that on the other side of it, on both sides of the spectrum, actually, I have several people through social media that I have built relationships with. Whether we talk, I don't even talk to them. They don't talk to me. I just know who they are. There's one client, Schreider, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really talk to this person at all, but my care for that person is like super high. I mean, there's many. This just pops to my head, right? And I know that name from Instagram live sales.
Yeah.
You know, the care there, but I don't I don't get to have a relationship with that person. My care is there, but it exists in this like ether. You know what I mean? I don't get to have that.
Yeah. So how do you think you're going about, building trust with these people that, you've never met before online?
Proof is in the pudding. The thing is, you got to keep your word. If you say something, then that's what you need to deliver. And when you do that consistently, that's how you build trust.
Yeah. When you market on Instagram, do you spend money on marketing on Instagram?
I used to. I haven't in a long time.
Is there an algorithm that you found?
You have to market.
Mm-hmm.
You have to market yourself. But I figure, again, when I started when I started doing social media on Instagram, well, because Instagram I'm going to focus on primarily right now, because I believe Instagram to be the best platform. That's my personal opinion. I think I choose Instagram over. Why I put my attention on Instagram is because for me, I think it's the best platform over Facebook and TikTok and Snapchat and all these other things. I think Instagram has the most stability, consistency. I also think it's the most difficult place to build a real presence. I think if you can do it on Instagram, doing it on TikTok is 100 times easier than doing it on Instagram. For sure.
Mm.
Like it took me, I don't know, like over a year to get like 25,000 followers on Instagram. On TikTok, I got 40,000 followers in like a month.
How?
That's just easier. It's a different target audience. But Instagram, in my opinion, I'll focus on Instagram. So when social media time became when COVID rolled around, and I was like, okay, I need to build a I had no social media at that time. I had no presence. Nada.
Mm.
And instead of going in the direction of, I wanted people to know who I was. That was my approach to social media. It wasn't anything other than, let me show you who I am. And a lot of people gravitated towards that. And I just built off of that by showing people who I actually was. What you get is what you give. If you're a person who's like not a lunatic, and we are going to have amazing conversation. But if I'm dealing with somebody who has very, very, unclear lines to what conversation topics what you can say, what you can't say, this is not. We're not going to have a relationship.
Yeah.
If you're the type of person that's not so easily offended by everything, and you can have an open-ended conversation, and we can have really great conversation, very enjoyable conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But also really important, I from the beginning said, anybody who is disruptive to my narrative here is going to get blocked. And I'm going to say, really, legitimately speaking, I'm going to say probably, and I know a lot of people will not like this, but I'm going to say we've blocked about 20,000 people on social media.
Wow.
I'm going to say that's probably a legitimate number.
But probably for valid reasons. It's not like you're just blocking people to block them.
No. The thing is, your social media is your social media. You get to determine and dictate and decide what kind of community you're going to have there. Mm-hmm. If you decide, okay, my community is going to look like this, any intruders coming into that community, they need to go. One bad apple ruins the bunch.
Yeah.
So when someone comes in and starts saying things that, I'm not that sensitive, but once somebody starts injecting negativity into this, you're gone.
Yeah.
But people chase the numbers. People chase the likes, all of these things, right? People are chasing that. People want the numbers, but the numbers don't mean anything. You could literally pay somebody in India or Pakistan $100 and you can get 10,000 followers like that. All bots. I mean,
Yeah.
the numbers don't mean anything. What matters is the quality of the community around that. That's something I figured out early on. And the only way you're going to get there is to expose yourself.
I remember one of the first things I heard in your business 101 class that you said was you can have 10,000 followers. I think you said something along the lines of you can have 10,000 followers that are going to maybe give you $100, and you can have 200 followers that are going to give you 500, 1,000, like genuine people.
Better.
But like, how do you find those people?
Like attracts like.
Yeah.
If you're a shithead, you're going to attract shitheads. If you're a good person or you're trying to be a good person, you're going to attract good people. Like attracts like. Well, number one, weed out the bad ones. Mm-hmm. And when I say bad, that doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means that this is my narrative over here. And if your narrative doesn't meet my narrative, I have the capability and the willingness to just remove that relationship. Someone else might not. Someone else might not understand. Why did you don't want my business anymore? No, I don't. People can't wrap their minds around that. Because the common narrative is I need to get every piece of business I can possibly get. But that is actually counterproductive. Yeah. Bad clients are bad clients. They're not going to change. Bad clients are not going to go from bad clients to good clients. Mm-hmm. I've never seen it happen. And when I say bad, I don't mean like this person spends a little bit of money or now they spend a lot. That's not what I'm talking about is attitude, mentality, mind frame, expectancy, entitlement, all of those, self-awareness, all of those things. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. And like we were saying, I will literally treat a $500 client the same as I would treat a $100,000 client. That is a true story. I like good people. I like fair people. I like open-minded people. Mm. That's what I like.
So I ended up doing some research, and it's just an estimate, but I did read that in the past 10 years that the crystal industry or gem and mineral industry has grown around 60 to 70%.
More than that.
Yeah, probably, which makes sense.
Way more than that.
Yeah, which is massive. So I guess my question would be like, what's the biggest major change you've noticed in the industry as a business owner?
Everything changes every year. So it would be hard to say what's the biggest change that I've noticed. I would say misinformation is the biggest obstacle currently, where before sourcing was really the most difficult thing to do.
Yeah, but the misinformation is crazy. Like, I had to put a disclaimer on the bottom of my website that was like, just letting you guys know, none of these can heal medical issues. Like,
if you're talking about metaphysical properties, that's a whole different, that's always kind of been happening.
Yeah.
Ever since New Age came into the crystal industry, which has been, you can find crystals being used for energetic properties going back to biblical times and even past that.
Yeah.
And I always used to tell this to people, especially back when I was more on the retail side of things, when I first started the business. I was very, very into the metaphysical properties. My explanation and my understanding of it was completely different than the standard books that you'd find or you'd get your hands on, which, in my opinion, are all rubbish. People ask me all the time, do you have a book you can recommend to me? No, I literally don't, because any book that I've ever seen, the major books, I can't even get like 5 pages past it because I'm like, this is just such garbage reading.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. You know, it might work for somebody else, but with metaphysics and spiritualism, this is a personal experience. This is not something that I can borrow yours. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with the mistakes, right? You need to go through that yourself. You can't learn something, you can't know something until you have processed that data, gone through that thing. And so the same thing with your metaphysics and your spiritual properties. Nowadays, somebody asks me about metaphysical properties, and I would tell them that's up for you. I can't give you that information. Even if I know the information for myself, it doesn't translate to you.
Yeah.
When you look at that thing, how does it make you feel? What is it that pops into your head? What are your instincts around it? And if you're not in a place where you have built your instincts and trust your instincts, then you can't even begin to make those kinds of assessments.
Yeah. So in your opinion, how does understanding a client's needs and preferences influence your business decisions?
I think number one, client needs to know that for themselves. That's more relevant than me understanding their preferences and their needs. Most people don't understand their own preferences and needs. One of the things that's really common in this industry is that you're going to get people in here who don't like heated amethyst, don't like citrine, right? I don't like heat treated amethyst. That's horrible. I don't like opalite. It's a synthetic stone. Or I don't like Indara glass, right, which people call green obsidian. Mm-hmm. Or all of this. The narrative goes on and on, right? I don't like aura treated or dyed things, but it doesn't matter what you like. It matters what your customer wants.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm so able to just put myself in the headspace of what the client. I don't. It doesn't matter what I like or what I don't like. Does it make sense to me or it doesn't make it? That's irrelevant. What matters is, does it make sense to you? Mm-hmm. Do you need that? Is that something you're interested in? Is that what's going on right now? The hard thing is that now we live in a world where a lot of trends are being set by Chinese manufacturers. And the Chinese manufacturer, like for example, I was telling the client who was in here before, my cell phone number right now is on the market in Pakistan, China, and in India, and Indonesia. My cell phone number, my personal cell phone number, is being sold on the market.
But why? Like, what?
So you can get my cell phone number and try to sell me stuff.
Yeah.
My cell phone number is for sale on the market.
How do you deal with that?
Oh, shit, I tell them they wasted $50 and I block them. But it's all, probably every day I get about like 7 or 8 WhatsApp messages, or you know what I mean?
I've had when I first started my company, before I knew about From the Mines, I almost got persuaded by a couple of those poacher bot people before I knew anything about them. No, I just learned to block them.
Yeah, I've been in a bunch of pretty rough situations. One in particular, there was this guy that reached out to us. This was going back. I was very naive still. I didn't know about scams and things like that. And this guy reached out to us. He sent us a bunch of pictures of like fluorites from Namibia. And he was like, "Sir, my family and my children and right?" And I wound up sending this guy, wire transferring this guy like $2,500. He said he was going to send me some material, but like really he caught me with my kids situation. My kids are suffering. I can't feed my kids, and I wasn't interested in the material. I didn't want to buy the material, but I wanted to help the guy out. And I was like, "Oh, we still got some cool fluorites or something, right?"
Yeah.
Nothing. Gone. And I learned, thank God it was only a $2,500 mistake.
Yeah.
But again, it's really sad that exists, because now what about the guy who really does need that kind of help? And now that's an evil that's in the world. Scamming is a real thing. It's across the board. Everyone's doing it, and it does make things very difficult to navigate in this industry. That's why eventually I just went in my own manufacturing. Yeah. Sometimes I'll buy out companies. It happened not too long ago. I think within the last year. A lot of people might think that I have a thing against the Chinese manufacturers, but I really don't. What I have a problem with is, one, they're destroying the industry. They really are. Their misinformation, their mislabeling of material, they're creating fake materials, synthetic materials. Yeah. They're doing so many things to destroy the industry. They really are. And they don't really care, because they don't love it. For them, it's just money in, money out. Like, I haven't ran into anybody over there who loves what they're doing it because it's a way to make money. Mm-hmm. And also there are terrible practices around manufacturing over there. There's a lot of, but there are some really, really good soul to the earth people there too. Far and few between, in my personal opinion. But I know two particular wholesalers over there who are manufacturing, but it's day and night. Their prices are the right price. Their manufacturing prices are what it should be. I know, because I manufacture for 10 years now. I know what it costs to manufacture a product. It doesn't matter. In China the prices. No, China's super expensive, dude. China's not a cheap place to be or live. It's not at all. So people like to go in that direction. Oh, well, the thing is expenses are cheaper there. No, it's not. No, it's not. The expenses are not cheaper.
Well, you just bought out one of
Yeah,
two people you know.
Chinese wholesalers.
Yeah.
Yeah, manufacturers.
Yeah.
Both went out of business because they can't compete.
Mm-hmm. I remember you had some of the pieces. I think you still do.
Yeah, I bought the whole company out.
Yeah.
Good people, really good people. I knew them for a really, really long time. I never really did much business with them. But, when it was time to go, it was time to go. And I bought them. I've bought out many companies in my career. I've bought out many. The thing is, people get into this industry, they don't really understand business. They don't see big picture stuff. They're looking at whatever's in front of their face right now. They're not planning 5, 10, 15 years ahead. That's not a thing that's really happening in this industry in particular. Yeah, in other industries that are a little bit more lucrative and more sustainable, for sure, you got all the best people in the country working on those companies. But in mom and pop businesses or niche markets, which crystal industry is not a niche market anymore, but it was when I started. Niche markets, you're not going to find the elite, intelligent people are not flooding the crystal market.
So what's, just for any business in general, what's like the minimum that they should be planning ahead, years wise?
You need to know the big picture.
What would that imply? Like 5 years? 10?
When I first started thinking about that, like actually thinking, it wasn't like right in the beginning. I had to learn these things as I went along. It wasn't that I knew any of this stuff. I had to figure this stuff out. But about, I'm going to say, a year into the business, I started asking myself kinds of like these questions, which is, where is this going?
Mm-hmm.
And then answering those questions, and what's the big picture? Before COVID hit, my big picture was to open a museum. That was what I wanted to do. I actually wanted to stop wholesale. I wanted to get out of the wholesale distribution. Mentally and emotionally, this industry is becoming a little too expensive. On my side of the fence.
I agree. I mean, when I went to the New Jersey Gem Show, the majority of things there were being sold at retail prices and marked wholesale, which you see a lot now, but
to be a real wholesale distributor, manufacturer in this industry right now and compete with China and India and Indonesia, you gotta have some real cojones on you.
Yeah.
You gotta have some real thick skin, because the competitors will come after you in ways that it's hard to explain. The way competitors would, the amount of jealousy and negative competition going on my side of the fence here in this industry is something you wouldn't even begin to fathom. Yeah. I never thought that this would be really relevant. I never thought that it was going to be as rough as it is. I thought it was when I got into it was all about crystals and healing and good energy, and I love plants and I love rocks.
Yeah.
I love all things nature. I love natural things. I really do. And for me, I was always in that headspace until I got into the business side of things, and I realized, oh my God, this is extremely cutthroat.
Yeah. So how do you deal with it, with the competition?
I try to stay in my own lane. I try to stay in my own side of the fence and not get involved. I don't buy cheap, sell cheap. It's hard. It's hard because also at the same time you need to provide your clients with what they need to be successful as well. So there's certain products and certain things that I can't do myself. I need to outsource to, let's just say, Indonesia. Indonesia has a great material. How do you get there and get it from good people? Which again, we're also doing that with the whole village in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Again, China has really great stuff, but and then the most difficult one to manage is that how do you get there and deal? Because even if you get in bed with a manufacturer in China or someone who says they're a manufacturer in China, you're going to wind up with so much nonsense on the back end of it. Even from the buyout that I had of this company, which is a huge buyout. I mean, a big buyout. I mean, it was fair on both sides. It was fair on both sides. It was doable. I'm still paying. The agreement is there. I'm a man of my word. What I could have done there, actually, if we go back in time, I'm going to make up a number right now. Let's just say that the buyout for that company was $500,000, right? Okay. Let's just say, just making up a number because I don't want anyone to know
Yeah.
the numbers are. Well, let's just say it was $500,000. Up front, let's just say I gave them $250,000 and I said, listen, you're going to need to give me till the end of the year to pay off the rest of this because I didn't plan on this. This wasn't set in my budget. I'm going to need to come up with these chunks of money because this is not a planned thing. And I have every single time met all of those payments and I will pay that bill off. But I could have just told them, see you later. I could have done that.
Yeah.
That's what 99% of people would do. And I'm sure that company knew that. Again, the owners of that company knew that about me, and that's why they sold it to me and not somebody else who would have given them maybe more money.
I do have a question regarding material and just how everything, the inflation is really killing a lot of companies.
I just had this conversation today with the client who was in here when you arrived.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling them over the last 7 years, amethyst is quadrupled.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, what are some products in the gem and mineral industry that you would recommend that we start investing in now? Because mines are depleting, things are going up in price.
It's hard because a lot of the things now have been taken over by the bad guys too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of mines that have been taken over by the bad guys. A lot.
You mentioned amethyst.
Amethyst is something that really you can never have enough of.
Hmm.
The better the grade amethyst you can get your hands on, go. Problem is that you need to make sure that you're actually buying it at the right price and it's the right grade and the right quality. That's finding someone that you trust. This is the most valuable thing. If you're on the other side in this industry as a buyer, as a retailer, you really need to find someone that you trust.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Then you can get this kind of information. And there's certain information that I won't give out to the public that I will only give out to my clients because then what's the point?
Yeah.
If you're my client, you're going to get information out of me that is not available publicly from me.
I just want to ask you a couple of closing questions.
Go.
What are your future plans in the business? What are you looking forward to? What's your
museum
Mm-hmm.
is what I have the collection for it.
Do you have any pieces that are already in a museum?
I've put many pieces in museums, sure.
Yeah. So what's retirement looking like for you? I know it's probably
I'll probably
far.
never retire per se. I'll probably always be doing something, but with this particular industry, my goal is to have a museum because I have that material for that kind of maybe. I've been to a lot of crystal museums, and what I would be able to set up at this current moment would be probably the best that I've ever seen. As far as material goes and rarity of material goes and crazy things go. I've definitely seen some really crazy stuff in museums where I was like, oh my God, jealous mode. But I would be able to set up something spectacular. I love the business. I love rocks. I love the business. There's really nothing else I'd rather do. But as far as what I'm doing right now, I probably only got another couple years in me before someone has to come in and take over the ship here. That needs to happen.
Do you have somebody that would?
Man, it would take me the 3 years to train somebody to do it, my way. If you want to stay, it would take 3 years.
When all is said and done, what do you want your legacy to be in this business?
I've been working on it for the last year and a half. I would like to go in the direction of lecturing and education, teaching people from a practical standpoint. Because I get kids that come in here, they got business degrees, marketing degrees, and they really don't know much.
Yeah.
And it's I could teach you more in a week than you've learned in these 4 years of school. And I know that sounds really horrible to say and arrogant and whatnot, but it's unfortunately the truth. Most people who go to school and get degrees in business management or wealth management or all these other things, they're really never going to. It's rare that you see those people with the degrees become really successful entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. Usually they go to work for somebody else, someone like me.
So you would want your legacy to just be as an educator.
I mean, that would be the most interesting thing for me, is to like get in that place where I can help other people grow and develop, and hopefully expedite people's process, and that they don't have to go through. I expedited my process here. Within a 5-year period of time, I did what it would take most people 12, 13, 14 years. And I know that from other people, not because I'm saying that from my own perspective, but I've had very wealthy, very successful people tell me, like, what you did here should have taken you triple the time that it did. How did you do this? And that's why a lot of the times very successful people or affluent people, wealthy people, find interest in me or want to bring me into the, how many times I've been invited to fancy pants stuff that I just don't belong at. And I show up to these fancy pants situations wearing like yoga pants and like Nikes and a hoodie. But I really intrigue those people because they're interested to know, how did you do this? And I did it by picking people's minds and then following that advice and expediting myself through not making the mistakes. One of my favorite questions to ask anybody: if you give one piece of advice, what would it be? That's like my favorite thing to do. What if you could give one piece of advice right now? What would it be? And you get to expedite.
So what would that be right now that you would want to leave your listeners for today's podcast with?
I would say that based on the context of this conversation and where it's gone, I would say that do what you love with your life. Make sure that whatever you're pursuing or whatever you're doing, don't just guess. I think too many people are guessing at what they want to do. Follow your passion, follow what you love, do what you love, do what makes you happy, and then you'll never work. It won't be work. If you love it, it's not work. If you're doing something that you're doing just to do it because it's the thing that you can do or that's available, it's always going to be work to you, and you're never going to be really excellent at it. You're never going to be great at it, and it's always going to be an uphill battle for you to do that. So find something that you love. And again, the confidence to do what you love needs to happen first. Find the confidence and the belief and the certainty in yourself that you can do what it is. When people love music or love art or, I can never do that. How many people want to do things and they just don't pursue it because they don't have the confidence? They're afraid of the failure behind of it. That's what the hokey pokey is all about, my friends. That's what life is all about. Is finding the courage and the strength and the guts to pursue what you need to pursue. Otherwise, you just wind up living your life on in someone else's dream. Yeah. Thanks, Maddie. I love you
Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Thank you so much. Love you, Chris.